Today, we are going from an ugly pivot table report like this one here. You can see how ugly this pivot table report is, to a more professional one like this one. You can see how professional this pivot table report is, including this beautiful grand total. Now remember, one way to know whether a data analyst or an Excel user is a professional or a beginner is by seeing how neat and precise his or her pivot table report looks. So today we are going to learn how to create and apply our own custom pivot table styles to make our pivot table look professional. Let's switch on to Excel and we dive deeper into understanding pivot table styles. So this is the data set that we are going to use. I'm going to first start by creating a pivot table. So I'm going to click on one cell within my data set. Then from the Insert tab, Tables group, I'm going to click on Pivot Table. It will open for me this dialog box. I want to create this pivot table on a new worksheet. So I'm going to select New Worksheet. And then I'm going to click OK. So when I click OK, it creates for me this pivot table. Now the first step is to rename our pivot table. So I'm going to go to the Pivot Table Analyze tab. Then from the Pivot Table group, this is the pivot table name. I'm going to click on it and change it to Custom Styles Report. This R is standing for report. So when I click OK, that's now the name of our pivot table. So I'm going to come to the field list and then drag the region down to rows, drop. Again, I'm going to go to the field list and then drag the nurse field and drop it to the rows areas, drop. Now from the field list, I'm going to drag malaria tested down to values and then drag positive and put it down below malaria tested. I'm now going to close the field list. Click on this close button. Now before we do anything, let me come to the sheet and then double click. I'm going to change it to Pivot Table Styles and then click OK. Now this pivot table report is now looking exactly like how we began from this worksheet here, but our goal is to make it look like this one here. So I'm going to click on this worksheet. Now let's start by renaming our field names. I'm going to click on row labels and change this to region tab. Now for this one, I'm going to double click. It will open for me the value field settings. This is the custom name. I'm going to get rid of sum of so that I remain with only malaria tested. So I'm going to highlight this and then backspace. Right now when I click OK, it will give me this error message here. Pivot table field name already exists. When I click OK, that one is because malaria tested is the same field name that we drag and drop on the row areas. Now in order for us to use the same field name, you need to put there a space either before the field name or after the field name. For me, I'm going to put it after it. I'm going to come and click and then space and then I'm going to click OK. This time around it allowed. Again for this one, I'm going to do the same. Double click. I'm going to highlight sum of, backspace. Now I'm going to leave this space this time around before the positive, and when I click OK, it will also accept it. Now let me resize my columns like this. Now before we start applying some styles to our pivot table, I want to first remove these grid lines. So I'm going to go to the View tab and then here is Grid Lines. I'm going to uncheck it and you can see the grid lines are now hidden. Let me first format our values. I'm going to click on this, right click, come to number format. I'm going to go to number. For decimal places, I want 0 decimal places. 1000 separators, check, and then click OK. I'm also going to come to this field or column, right click, number format, number, 0 decimal places, check 1000 separator, and then I'm going to click OK. Now let's start applying styles to our pivot table. So with the pivot table selected, I'm going to go to the Design tab, click, and then from the pivot table styles, we have All these are pivot table styles that you can use. They are actually grouped into 3 different groups. We have the first group here is the light, the second group here is the medium, and then the third group here is the dark. Now on top here I have this custom group. That's because I've already created one custom style on this worksheet, but by default you don't have the custom group. This custom group only appears when you have some pivot table style that you have created by your own. But for built-in pivot table styles, you have only these 3 groups. If you want to use one of these built-in styles, you can come to it, for example from the light group, then you simply click on it and it will apply for you the format like the way you are seeing it here. Or you can come to the medium group and then you click on it. This is how it looks. Or you can come to the dark group, then you click on any like this one here, and this is how it looks. But for our case, we don't want to use any of these built-in styles. We're going to create our own. Now if you want to create everything from scratch, you can come down here, then you come to new pivot table style. When you click on it, it will open for you the new pivot table style dialog box. Then you can start formatting everything from scratch. But I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to styles. For our case, we are not going to start from scratch. We're actually going to modify one of these styles here, and we're going to go back to the light group. Now first of all, this first one here actually doesn't have any style applied. So if you have already applied some styles and you want to remove all those styles, you can come to this first option here which is saying none, as you can see, and then you click on it and it will remove for you all the styles that you have already applied. But for our case, I want to pick something which is very light, like for example this one here. Now when you right click, it gives you all these options here. You cannot simply modify these built-in options because it has to be there. That's why modify is grayed out. So what you can do, you can first of all duplicate it. So I'm going to come to duplicate, click, and when you have a copy, Excel will now allow you to modify the copy so that the original copy will always remain there. So that's exactly what we are going to do. So what we are going to create here is actually going to be a modified style that we have modified from the style that we duplicated. On top here it's saying name. I'm going to change this one to my pivot table style. This is going to be the name of our custom pivot table style. Now when you come down here to the pivot table elements, it has all the elements of a pivot table. You can see all the elements are here. The elements that you are seeing bolded, it means they have already been given some special formats, and the one that's not bolded, it means they have not been given any format. Remember, we duplicated the style that was already there, so it had some format before. On top here it's saying all table. That means you're going to apply that particular format on all your entire table. We have a lot of elements here and we're not going to modify all of them. We're just going to modify some few. Let's start by modifying the header row. So I'm going to click on header row and then go to format. When I click on format, it will open for me the format cells dialog box. It has the font, the border, and the fill. So those are the formats that you can give to that particular element. This is actually our header row, the field names. So I'm going to come to the font and then I'm going to change the font to white. Then I'm going to come to border. Now for the case of border, I want it to have a dark green color. And then from here, I'm going to select the bold line, click. Now here, I'm first of all going to select none. When I select none, remember this is actually the preview how it's going to look. On top here is actually the top part of your element. Below here is actually the bottom part of your element. The left and then the right. Now inside here represent the entire inside of the table. But for our case, I'm first of all going to select none so that we remove the table from all directions. I simply want this bold line to be at the bottom. I don't want it anywhere else. I simply want it at the bottom. Now when I come to fill, I want the fill to be this particular green here. Click. And when I click OK, you can see on the right hand side of the modified pivot table styles dialog box, we have the preview, and this is actually how it's going to look. So when I click OK, right now you did not see any change on our pivot table. That's because we haven't applied our particular custom pivot table style yet. So to apply it, make sure you select one cell within your pivot table, then you come to the pivot table style, click. When you come on top, you will see the custom style on top here. Now this is the one I created before, but the one we are working on is this one here. You can see the name is my pivot table style. So when I click on it, you can already see our pivot table report is taking shape. Now I don't want to see this plus or minus button here, the expand and collapse button. So to remove it, I'm going to go to the pivot table analyze tab, and then from the show group, I'm going to unselect plus or minus button. When I click on it, you can see that plus or minus button is actually removed. Now let's go back to the design tab. Let's continue modifying our style. So I'm going to go back to our style, and then from this style here, I'm going to right click. Then this time around, I'm not going to duplicate, I'm going to modify. So when you click on modify, this time around, let's go to another element. Let's go to, let's say, row subheading 1. When I select it, these subtotals for regions is what we are calling row subheading 1. And then I'm going to come to format. Now for this particular case here, I simply want to come to fill, and then I'm going to give it this light green fill here. And when I click OK, again I'm going to click OK. Now since we have already selected our custom style, it will now be applying all the format that we are going to make. Immediately we click OK. Now you can see our pivot table report is now becoming more professional. Now when I scroll down, our grand total is actually not looking nice. So let's go and modify our grand total. I'm going to go back to our custom style. Then when I right click, I'm going to come to modify. Now let's look for grand total. It's down here. I'm going to select grand total row. And when I go to format, now for the case of grand total, I'm going to borders, click. And then instead of blue borders, I'm going to change it to green, this particular green here. When I click on it, I'm now going to select the line. I'm going to select this thick green line, click, and then I want that one to be on top of the grand total row. But first of all, I'm going to select none so that I unselect all this one. I simply want it on top of the grand total row, click, and then for this double line, I'm going to click on it. I want this one to be below the grand total row, click, and now when I click OK, and then when I click OK, you can see our grand total is now looking nice. So this is actually a good report. Let's do one more modification. I'm going to go back to our custom style, and then I'm going to right click, come to modify. Now this time around, we're going to select all table, then come to format. Now I'm going to go to the borders. This is actually the color that our border is having, but I'm going to go here and change it to this light green, this one here, click, and then I'm going to select a line. Let me select this particular line here. Now first of all, I'm going to remove all these lines here from all directions. I'm going to click on none to remove it. Now this one here, I only need it horizontally, so I'm going to click. You can see the horizontal line. I also want it vertically, and then I want it on top, and then I also want it at the bottom. Now you may not know what exactly we are formatting, but we are formatting these lines that is actually separating our data. Each and every row is actually separated by a certain particular line. That's actually what we are formatting here. And when I click OK, and then again when I click OK, you can see the color is changed, and we are now having that particular line. Now to make this report even more precise and nice looking, I'm going to separate each region with a blank row, and to do that, I'm going to go to the design tab, and then from the blank rows, I'm going to click, and then I'm going to select insert blank line after each item. So when I click OK, now you can see this first record here is for central region, the second record here is for eastern. We have this blank row which is separating each region, and that one is actually making our report, first of all, easier to read, secondly, nice looking, and thirdly, very professional. So this is actually a very professional report when you compare it to this one here where we began from. Yeah, that is it for this particular video. If you like this video, I'm sure you're also going to like this video where we talked about the correct ways of applying number format to your pivot table report. You can click on it, then you go and watch it. Until next video, then we meet again. Thank you.